Good evening. We'd like to call to order the school committee meeting of Thursday, November 19th at 6 p.m. If we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if anybody is recording, if you could just please let us know. We are recording and broadcasting on local channel 8.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
may I make a motion to move our questions and comments by the members up to right after the student representative and recognitions? I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we'll move number 9.
Actually, it's
until-
number 11, sorry. Number 11.
Okay, we're moving number 11 up to after number 5.
Thank you.
Okay. And at this time, is there any citizens with comments or questions? Sure, come forward.
Rick Ward here. My question is, there's been a vacancy on this school board for a really long time. And I know for a fact that you've had at least one viable candidate. And this thing keeps going on and on. I thought it would be on the agenda for tonight. So I would like somebody to explain why this thing's being delayed so long.
It was going to be planned on the agenda, however, at the Board of Selectmen meeting, it was up for discussion that the posting online was incorrect. It had April dates. So their majority vote opened it again for another 2 weeks until November 23rd. And then after that point, we'll make a joint meeting to get the appointment made.
There is a lot of concern out there in the public over this. Just want you to know that.
I know it is, and believe me, it's happened when Janet was appointed. It happened when me and Danielle were appointed. It's a messy process.
Then somebody needs to get it right.
Madam Chairman? I'd like to speak to that if I could. I actually was going to do this under questions and comments by members, but since Mr. Ward has brought this up, we were supposed to appoint a member to this committee tonight. We've been out without a 5th member basically since the election. We've been going on 6 months now. And I understand that there were concerns because the notice that was on the website was incorrect. The posting, however, for the position was done correctly and legally the first time around. And I was really hoping that once the elections were over in May, that, for lack of a better term, that the political shenanigans in this town would stop. But it appears that they haven't. The selectmen the other night voted to postpone this because of the notice on the website, and I understand that there may be some concerns regarding that. However, the way it was done was really, in my mind, unconscionable. They waited until the last 4 minutes of the meeting. It was not on the agenda. No one on the school committee that I'm aware of knew that it was going to be discussed by the Board of Selectmen at their last meeting. And therefore, we had no chance to provide input on how we felt about the possibility of postponing the appointment. And, I want to say right now, I have nothing against any of the other people that have applied for the job. I'm glad to see that we have, multiple people that are interested. But the fact remains that it was brought before the selectmen by their leadership at the last second. And if anybody truly believes that the leadership brought that forward at the last second, simply because of concerns over the posting on the website, and not because of political considerations regarding the only applicant we had at the time. Then I have a big wooden horse up on Front Street I'd like to sell you. I think the way it was done was wrong. I think they left the school committee out in the cold. We have a part in this process, a big part in this process. And I just, again, I was hoping that things were going to be different once the elections were over and that political differences were going to be set aside. I look at this committee, and I look at Danielle, and she and I were on different sides of the recall issue. But I have to tell you, since I've been on the board, I can't think of anybody else that I've enjoyed working with more than Danielle, because we've been able to put aside the differences we had in the election and work for what's best for the school district and for this committee. And I don't know what the solution is, but to say I'm disappointed in the actions of some of the members of the Board of Selectmen, again, somebody hits you with a proposal with 4 minutes left in the meeting, and you want to go home. It sounds good. Sounded reasonable, I'm sure, to postpone it. But, again, without consulting the school committee, or even letting the public know that it was going to be on the agenda, is wrong. And I really hope that the selectmen moving forward will be a little more communicative. And I guess I'll just close by saying that one of the reasons that we had the recall was because there was concern over previous members of the Board of Selectmen perhaps acting in a less than transparent way. And quite frankly, some of them were accused of being underhanded. And all I can say is that the way the current Board of Selectmen is being run shows that if that was their complaint with the last Board of Selectmen, that they learned well, because they're doing the same thing. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? No? Okay. Let's see. Can I ask for a motion to move correspondence and announcements after our student representatives?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we are going to move on to our student representatives right now, if we can get Memorial.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Next to me here, I have our Student of the Month for November. This is Thomas Ciccolini, and he's a kindergarten student at Memorial School in Mrs. Kenny's class. And Mrs. Kenny wrote something very nice that I'd like to read to you. It is my pleasure to nominate Thomas Ciccolini as Memorial Student of the Month. From the first day that Thomas walked into my class, he has been a role model for all the students. He arrived with a positive and optimistic attitude, and he continues to exude these traits. He's a respectful young man with exceptional manners. Thomas is helpful and kind to all his friends. He takes pride in his work and always works to do the best of his ability. In conversations with Thomas, it is evident that he has a great vocabulary and he is an animated speaker. Thomas loves working forward to Friday nights because it's movie night at his house. Well, that sounds like fun. I always look forward to Mondays when Thomas shares with me the movies he has watched. Overall, Thomas is a well-rounded student with a twinkle in his eye and pride in his pocket. Way to go, Thomas. Job well done. Sincerely, Mrs. Kenny. Thank you.
Toy Town?
This is Damon Legault. He's a 5th grader in Mrs. Barbaro's class. Damon is an excellent student and a friendly, caring young man. He always does his best work in class. He shows strength in writing and puts outstanding effort into all of his assignments. Damon gets along with everyone and works well with partners and in groups, sharing his knowledge with others. He's a great friend, which I witnessed at lunch, and an exceptional student, and a role model to his peers. Congratulations.
Murdoch Middle School?
Mr. Superintendent, Madam Chair, committee members, assembled audience, it is our great pleasure to nominate Caitlin Wade as the November 2015 Student of the Month for the Murdoch Middle School. Caitlin has been nominated by the 7-8C team, and she has shown the fine qualities as exemplified by the following acrostic. So, spelling her name out, C stands for conscientious. She is always putting her best effort forward and tending to the details of all assignments. A is always positive. I, involved in class activities and the learning process. T, trustworthy, a student with integrity that cites borrowed work accurately. L, lovely in the way she interacts with others. I, intuitive, she can think outside the box and is a self-starter. N is nice and neat. She is nice to be around and always organized. Caitlin has been described this week to me as continuing to mature, and we believe she will continue to be successful in the future as the member of our middle school community. Thank you, Caitlin, for a great beginning to the school year. Keep up the good work. And tomorrow we will present them to you, to your fellow members of the school community, because we have our award ceremony tomorrow, and we always do the first quarter ending with all of the students of the month. So by the end of the year, each of the three designated students in each of those quarters shows up. So congratulations, great job, and you weren't in trouble, and you didn't believe me when you came in my office the other day. So thank you.
Do we have a Murdoch High School? Okay, come on forward. Or,
Can I just add, Mr. Provost has a Student of the Month for the Academy, but she could not attend, so he wants to present her December 3rd.
okay.
Ms. Winstearns has never been to a school committee meeting in her career before. She's very excited.
I was gonna say, what a treat.
She's living the dream now. Yeah. So I am a little bit messed up on my schedule as far as how we're doing Student of the Month and Teacher of the Month and everything. I promise I will bring 16 next month when I bring my Adams Scholars. Okay. So this is Caitlin Quinn Stearns, and I was fortunate to work with Kate when I was a teacher at Lunenburg. She taught history there with me while I was teaching history and English. And she was at North Middlesex and not particularly happy there. And so I said, I have a great opportunity for you. Julia Callahan, who's one of our English teachers, was out on maternity leave. And Steve Forte is retiring on his birthday, December 17th. And there was a 3-week time where both would be there. But I said, I need a temporary Julia and then a replacement Forte. And Caitlin Quinn came in and did an amazing job filling both of those roles. She's finishing up now her time teaching English, which she thoroughly enjoyed, I think. Would you say? Yeah, she did. Yeah. And now she's getting ready to move classrooms and departments and start teaching history at Murdoch High School. She also, on our Professional Development Day, did a phenomenal job running a workshop for the other teachers on Google Classroom. And it's really about getting the maximum use that we can out of those hundreds of iPads that are floating around the school and making sure that people are using them effectively and well. And so many people signed up for her particular workshop. We had to run 2 sessions of it, and we're going to do some follow-up for it too, and we'll probably try to run it again at another point. She also did a wonderful activity, Ed Cafes, that I'm going to try to get some time to have teachers go in and see this very student-centered, student-driven activity that she's doing. Basically, it involves students developing their own questions for discussion on the literature or whatever the theme of the lesson is, and then those students lead the group. And it's very, it was a very impressive thing to see students taking hold of their own learning like that. And that really is the ultimate goal of learning. The highest level of learning is students are teaching each other and themselves. That level of discourse was just wonderful, and such a far removed thing from the desks in rows and the teacher in the front of the room lecturing that used to be so prevalent. And so I hope she doesn't already own this book, but I do have a nice certificate. And I think, were you there when he came and spoke to us?
No.
Okay, so I met this guy, James Lowen, a few years ago. He wrote a great book called Lies My History Teacher Told Me, really about shaking up the way history is taught, of not just memorizing dates and facts, but getting concepts and themes and things like that, and seeing sort of both sides of every story. He also wrote a book called Lies Across America, which is about all the false things that are in those roadside attractions and memorial markers and things like that across America. So I hope you don't have this.
I don't.
All right, excellent. That's great. I took a shot in the dark. So Kate Quinn Stearns has been a wonderful addition to our faculty, and we're happy to have her.
Thank you.
Great.
And she's just so thrilled to be at a school committee. She can check that off the bucket list. So.
Thank you.
Hope you come again.
We need good history teachers, that's for sure.
And a teacher's award.
You can smile too.
I've asked her to restrict her comments to 15 minutes, if that's okay. I looked out the window this afternoon and saw a cold gray sky with a seasonal mist floating in from the north. I was a little sad. Winter is coming. Then I noticed about 20 kids out in the field surrounding a teacher. They were laughing, cheering, and as she threw a throton in the air, I don't even know what that is, but the kids were having a ball. I learned she does this almost every day, and the kids love the game and the teacher. I would like to introduce you to our November 2015 Teacher of the Month, Lynn Murray. I'm not done. Miss Murray is a graduate of our school system, and her school pride and town pride shows through every day. She shares that pride with her students in creative and interesting lessons. Each year, she takes her class on a historic walking tour of our town. I tried to go this time, but I hid when she called. They actually leave Toytown Elementary and walk to historic Old Center. They visit the Old Center Church, the cemetery, and the very first settlement of Winchendon. This is how you instill pride in our students. Chokes me up. If you go to her classroom, you'll notice about 30 college pennants from former students who went off to college. What a great lesson for our kids to see where former students have gone to continue their studies. Mrs. Murray supports her students past and present by attending sporting events, concerts, plays, and many other student activities. Congratulations, Lynn Murray. The kids love you, and we love you. Keep up the great work.
Thanks.
Oh, I get my moment, right? I get my moment. I just thought I'd mention my teachers of the decade, because I did go to school here. So my teachers of the decade, some of you might recognize the names. My 2 fifth-grade teachers at Streeter School were Mrs. Leon LaFortune and Mrs. Doris Townsend. And they're still an inspiration to me. I have such fond memories of that year. And then my high school teachers of the decade, that would be the 1970s, you see my gray hair, would be Mr. Bruce Farnham. He was my 10th grade English teacher, and Mr. Bob Maliska, and he was my 11th grade US history teacher, and all of those people I thought I'd recognize in absentia. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we invite you all out into the hallway if you want to take pictures for the newspaper. Do we want to call a recess?
Are any of them coming back?
Sure. I'll move to 5-minute recess.
Okay. We have a motion for a 5-minute recess.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. And we'll be back in 5. And we return from recess, and I apologize that I skipped Mr. Aiden Provost, our student representative.
Okay, so winter sports signups are underway for Murdoch High School. So we hope you sign up and be on one of our teams. Today we had Packsgiving, which was very successful. Many teachers, many students helping work, cooking, cleaning up. A lot of community. Our Thanksgiving game and Thanksgiving pep rally is next Wednesday. And it's like a quarter day. We get out at 10:30, so we'll have that. And then the game is the next day at Narragansett High School. We also this week we have packed Thanksgiving baskets for families in need. So we've been collecting goods and we've been stocking up our baskets to give to those families. And also this week into next week, we did teacher turkeys. So we have like every teacher has a turkey and students will buy feathers with money in order to stick them on the turkey, and whichever teacher with the most feathers will get, will have to wear a turkey suit on the day of the pep rally, which is next Wednesday, and they will have to greet the buses, the whole shebang, everything. And
How much are feathers?
I think it's 25 cents for one and 4 for $1. It is. Yeah, sure.
And just to let you know how competitive this is, I actually have drained my youngest son's college fund to purchase feathers to put on Mrs. Moriarty's turkey. Because I think she'll look wonderful in orange and brown. And very much looking forward to that. So.
Is this the same event at which one of the teachers is going to be getting a pie in the face?
No, I believe that's actually me getting the pie. It is the same venue, yes.
Yes,
It's me that's going to be getting the pie, I guess. It's whoever brought in the most canned goods for the basket drive. Do you know who that is? Do you know who won?
I haven't. I don't know who won, but
Is the can drive over?
There was a lot of there were a lot of people very interested in that one.
I think it's still going this week, and the middle school is also doing the same thing for Miss Vizina.
That's it, Miss Vizina. That's who I was thinking.
It's no longer can the principal, but it's like we'll still take cans in order to finish packing those baskets. So.
I'm gonna look good like that.
So the breakfast with Santa for Kiwanis will be held at the Carriage House on Saturday, December 5th. What time is that at? Do you know what time that's at?
It usually starts at 8.
8, and 8 to 12.
Yeah.
And
8 to 11.
8 to 11. Okay. And the Wednesday before, which is the 2nd, they're doing packing or wrapping toys for the younger kids, and they'll be able to, if anyone can help, just come 6:30 at the Carriage House, and then that Saturday, of course, is breakfast with Santa. So little elves are at work. And the musical's underway. As you know, it's Into the Woods. It's going very well, and it will be the first weekend in February. So we hope everyone can come. And I think that's it. Oh, and we recently had a tryout for the Central District choir and band, and me and another Sean Sutton made it into Central District Choir. So that's an accomplishment for the music department. So
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Madam Chairman?
Greg?
If I can, just because...
I just want to add that at our admin meeting, we introduced the idea to bring a middle school representative and a Toy Town representative. I don't think we'll have one from Memorial, but they're identifying someone to do that so that they can update their school stuff.
And if somebody can remind me of the name, the newly constituted Murdoch Middle High School, the chorus that sang at the American Legion.
Chamber Singers.
The Chamber Singers sang up at the American Legion on Veterans Day. And I just want to give them congratulations because they did a fantastic job. And I just think, sometimes the kids that are in the arts don't often get the same recognition that kids who are in sports do. And I just, would like to give them a little bit of applause too, because they did a great job.
On behalf of chamber singers, thank you, and all music departments. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, correspondence and announcements. I have two that came in last minute. From Town Hall, they are instituting a substance abuse task force. And they would like us to appoint either somebody from department, board, or organization to join them in their task force.
Are they looking for school committee or?
Well, I don't think it has to be committee, it's just department, board, or organization.
Okay,
Should that be something that you put through the wellness committee?
yeah, I could do that. I believe it meets next week,
Wellness, December,
December, so it's 2 weeks out.
I have it somewhere.
Oh, it's not in here. Oh.
Well, I know you have an interest in it. I don't, you know.
Right, but I'm even thinking, I think we should have somebody related in the building.
Okay.
Oh,
Good.
okay, okay. Yeah,
So in the wellness committee is mostly like the nurses and guidance and all them.
okay,
So is that okay to bring it up to the wellness committee?
absolutely, yep.
Okay with me.
All right, and then also brought up by Town Hall is, due to all the recent questions about pedestrian and traffic safety, they are establishing an
Ad hoc.
ad hoc, I didn't know if there were abbreviations, Traffic and Pedestrian Safety Committee. So again, that would be the same, they want somebody from building, committee, organization. Who would you
Okay.
recommend?
Because he's not here, I think Jim Murphy would be a good choice. But I mean, he's our facilities director, and he might be a perfect fit.
Or forward this to Jim and see if he
He
has
has some,
somebody else.
okay.
And I can keep the committee updated because the planning board asked me to be their representative on that same committee, so.
Okay.
And if Jim's not interested, or, you know, I'm always happy to do to be on the ad hoc traffic and pedestrian. But I really do think it should be somebody that's in the trenches.
Yeah, that
Rather
knows the
than me.
buildings
Yes.
and traffic.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
All right, and then also, I just would like to give a shout out, this was just emailed this afternoon. At the Field Hockey Awards banquet last night, Murdoch's All-Star Team MVP, Haley Gendris, completed the night with signing, let's see. Yes. Okay, let me read it exactly. We are very proud of her commitment, dedication, and work ethic, and can't wait to see her very bright future holds as she signed her letter of intent to play field hockey for Mercy College, a D2 school. Haley is the first athlete in many years from Murdoch High School to play at a D2 collegiate level. Congratulations, Haley. And that was all on my desk.
I had the same correspondence, so you covered it, very good.
Okay. Did you want to move?
I would like to just add one more comment and question for the members while he's here. You know, number 11.
Okay, yep, okay, so now we're on members' comments.
Yes. I just had one more for me in that. I would like to have a motion that we once again have the select board come to our December 3rd meeting, ask Linda Daigle to have them come to our December 3rd meeting to vote on our school committee member.
I would second. I'll third it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. I will get with Linda to schedule that for the 3rd.
Thank you.
Is that it for comments at this time?
I have no others.
Okay? We're making a mess of the agenda tonight. Can I get a motion to move the subcommittee report of policy next?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, policy committee update, please.
Greg, do you want me to?
Well, as I understand it, Christina needs a vote on the co-curricular and extracurricular activities policy that she included in our packets tonight, and I guess she has to respond to it. Did you say by the 30th of November? And as it stands, the only change that she has recommended here is in section 2, and I'll read the whole section in full, adding what she has put in, added to it. No student shall be denied the opportunity in any implied or explicit manner to participate in an extracurricular activity because of the race, color, sex, religion, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or homelessness or national origin of the student, except as provided in 603 CMR 26.067. And the addition are the words gender identity or homelessness in that section. And I would move that we approve that wording and send it back to Christina so she can get it submitted.
Second.
All those in favor of the change?
Aye.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. While we're on the policy committee, was there anything else?
We met today. We visited 4 different policies. I think the other 3 had edits,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly. So we would like to have an agenda item on the first meeting in December to do readings of those. They'll need to be read and voted on.
Right. So it'd be first reading.
Yeah.
And the policy, now I'm going to have a brain cramp here. The policies that we talked about were we talked about the wording of the field trip policy.
Field trip policy.
That's changing.
Concussion?
Concussion policy.
Yeah, concussion policy, which is very important.
And I've reached out to Dr. Harrington to see if there's anything we need to add to that concussion policy, and I haven't heard back from him yet, but by December 3rd, I'll have an update for you.
Okay.
Substitute
Right.
compensation for substitutes.
Substitute compensation, correct.
And Carolyn is typing those corrections in,
All right.
probably as we speak, so.
So that's what we did. Thank you, Danielle.
Welcome. I happen to still have it.
Thank you, policy. All right, where are we on to now? Superintendent report?
I'm ready. It's been a busy month. We started the month with a Winning Cultures workshop for all the staff. It was positive, inspiring, and it highlighted the impact of negativity in an organization. So it's something the administrative staff and I are working on to create a very positive winning culture. Last weekend, we attended the MASS conference in Hyannis. Incredible speakers, great sessions. It was just a eye-opening learning experience, so very positive program there. We started on Monday, we started our 5th section of kindergarten class, so we were able to find a way to get another section. We had 26, 27 kindergarten students in a class, and it was, we started looking at numbers like the Dibble scores, and they were affected, so we created another section. That section starts with 16 students. They had kind of an open house for the parents and the kids on Friday, and they started Monday, and the kids, it's as if they were there all year. So a wonderful transition, but I'll keep you posted on how that goes. The other kindergarten teachers are very thankful too, because it brings down the number in their classes. Just to point out, for Josh's sake, our first school committee meeting each month, we will have the Teacher of the Month award. The third Thursday of the month will be the Student award. So,
Ouch.
although we are going to make a slight change because I think Josh wants to bring his award winners. Is that right, Josh?
We can get them back in cycle.
Okay.
I'll be messed up for the rest of the year if I don't get on cycle.
Okay, and the purpose of that is, we don't want to take away from the recognition of the students by bringing teachers in and gloating over them, so we'll do them on separate events. All right, next, we have this is just kind of a FYI. Mr. Gonzalez has a field trip. It was kind of short notice, but I approved it anyhow. He's taking 90 students on Tuesday, November 24th, to the Gardner Cinemas. They are going to watch the Chilean miner story called The 33. This movie depicts the plight of 33 Chilean miners who were trapped in a mine over a mile deep for 69 days. It's an inspirational story that teaches about leadership, resiliency, teamwork, and family. All very important things that we want our students to know and understand. It also gives our students a chance to learn about Chile's people and culture. So with that, they will have an opportunity to reflect on their experience. There are 90 students, 9 chaperones, and 1 superintendent going to the movies on Tuesday. So thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
Well, and there are 4 school committee members.
I was going to say, no school committee seats?
Come on down. I'll drive. Unless you want to ride the bus with 90 students, because, is that correct, Josh? You're only taking 1 bus, they're putting all 90? Cut costs? Okay, well, maybe that's good. Okay. On Monday, 4 of us attended a suicide prevention task force at Hayward Hospital. Mr. Mackey, Mr. Provost, Ms. Silasaite, and myself. It's really to raise awareness and to help our students, and it is a problem, so we'll kind of work with that and see what we can do to bring and educate our teachers first, and then somehow or another create a conversation with our students to get them to know how important it is to talk and come to someone. So it was very enlightening, a little bit depressing task force meeting. Positive thing, they served breakfast. So Haywood Hospital has very good food. So next we have, just pointing out, we have a special town meeting November 23rd. We have 2 articles. One is the Marvin School, turning it back to the town. I mentioned before that CAPS and the YMCA have voiced interest. I spoke with John Kearney from Winchendon School. He's going to go in tomorrow morning with a team to look at it, take pictures, and so there might be an opportunity there for Winchendon School to use that. That's Article 13. Article 14 is in the warrant as a after-school program revolving account, but I think we're going to have to change it to extended day revolving account, as we have morning program and afternoon program. So we might have to make that change on the floor, on town floor on Monday. Okay. I just want to remind you that tomorrow is the Chicken Bowl. It's a JV. Our football team plays Narragansett. We're recommending everyone wear blue and white. We're going to win. I'm just going to let you know that.
Is this up at Alumni Field?
This is, yes. We're on our home field.
And it's at 6 p.m.
6 p.m. start, yes. All right, and then finally, I invited the principals in to talk about our park scores. And Ms. Vizina put together a beautiful PowerPoint presentation. She brought the laptop, the projector, and do you know how you want to present? Do you guys have your order? Okay, come on down. And that's my report.
Well, just including that up, you need to know that Aiden was circumspect, did not tell you that between himself and Ms. Benedict was in 10th grade. They have started a tutorial program for music with my middle school kids. As an example, he's good at voice, plays several instruments, and so forth and so on. So they're doing tutorial with kids through different functions and their compatibility.
Closer to the mic, Lynn.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, it was something the kids put together, asked if I could let them recruit. They did. Mr. Doherty and Aiden and the other kids are doing this after school, sometimes before school if it can happen. But it's a way to create a feeder system, and kids who can't fit in for whatever reason, these kids are multiply talented, and they are acting as teachers with the guidance of Mr. Doherty.
Very nice.
Hello, everyone. We have some very interesting results to show you tonight on the PARCC exam. So just a little bit of background about the PARCC assessment. PARCC stands for the Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers. It's a consortium of states in which Massachusetts is one of the states. Our Commissioner, Mitchell Chester, is also the head of the PARCC consortium. So in the spring of 2015, grades 3 through 11 took ELA and mathematical tests, and they were all computer-based and linked to what students need to know for college and careers based on our Common Core state standards. In the test, for the test for spring 2015, there were 2 sections to that test. One window was a performance-based assessment. The other window was an end-of-year assessment. The PBA test, as we had called it, that window took place when it was about 75% of the year had gone by in March and April. And then the end of year was at the end of April into May testing. So on Tuesday, November 17th, the Board of Education voted 8-3, that they're going to actually transition to a next generation MCAS, which is going to be a combination of MCAS type questions and PARCC questions. So this is what we will be working with for the next few years. The first administration of this new assessment, this next generation assessment, will take place in spring 2017. So what does that mean for us? This year, in spring 2016, we will be administering PARCC again. Now with this PARCC administration, we will be held harmless also this year and for the next administration in spring 2017. So if there's a negative effect on our assessment scores, again, we'll be held harmless. That will not affect our accountability status. The high school is a little bit different than the 3 through 8. A couple other things that we wanted to look at, again, for high school, they still have to take MCAS. So that's for grade 10, they will be held accountable, but that's because they are taking the MCAS assessment. There is a couple of changes that are very interesting and are great for us. There are shorter test units. So for 6th through 8th, for example, we had 9 testing units. This year we only have 6, and it's in one window. And that's about 90% of the school year has gone by, where our window has been pushed back from April 25th to June 6th. So we can test anywhere inside that window, which is a positive for us. Just to give you a little heads up too about the testing scores, MCAS, there were 4 levels: advanced, proficient, needs improvement, and then warning or failing. So they actually have been able to link these up with our PARCC scores. So when you see levels, don't get this confused with accountability levels for the district. These are score levels. So level 4 and 5, where it exceeds expectations and meets expectations for Park, that links up to advanced or proficient on MCAS. Level 3 and level 2 on Park will link up to needs improvement scores on MCAS, and then level 1, which is did not yet meet expectations, would link up with a warning or failing score on Park.
However, since it is 5 indicators now versus 4, you'll notice that level 3 is directly in the middle, and the state is euphemistically and politely telling us that we can get those kids to the next level and that we need to put some serious emphasis on that core group of kids. And as we go through this, you'll see that there's a cohort breakout that we've already looked at and how many kids sit in that window of opportunity. It doesn't mean that the kiddos that are in level 2 aren't approachable, but the state, in its wisdom, will come after us and saying, in that third category, you need to be improving. That's going to be the nexus point in the future.
Yeah, as I look at this, I realize we're just talking, I guess, semantics, but as I look at levels 3 and 2 on the Park achievement levels, quite frankly, it just sounds like they're trying to be way too nice. It's sort of like the everybody gets a trophy syndrome. Approached expectations. Well, you didn't meet the expectation. Approaching is not good enough, nor is partially meeting expectations.
It isn't, you're absolutely right, and that's why it links to needs improvement. So when we see a level 3 or a level 2 score, we know that those students need improvement. What is nice about the Park in comparison with MCAS did this a little bit. With Park, it really breaks down the kids' scores. So when we're looking at ELA levels, we're looking at reading for literature, reading vocabulary, writing. There's a number of different avenues. And each of those sections is given a separate score. Mm-hmm. So the kids might be near or at or above expectation. So each one of those sections, they get a separate score that leads to this complete level. So we can see, they're higher in this area but need some assistance in this area. So that's very helpful for us as administrators and instructors to really break it down what they need.
Yeah, I mean, I just go back I was terrible at math, and if I had brought in one of my tests here from high school, it would probably have a D+ on it. Well, I didn't flunk, but my teacher never told me I partially met expectations. I got a D+.
You partially met because you got some of it right, but you still needed help on the things you got incorrect. So.
Right.
We wanted just to bring your attention, you've heard of CPI scores, Composite Performance Index. What Park and the state are calling our CPIs right now are called transitional because we are transitioning from one test to another assessment. So when you see our CPI scores, they are linked through linking studies that if you'd love to read those, we can send you those links. But we just wanted to give you a heads up that it's called transitional at this point. Again, linked Park and MCAS scores. It's a metric for school and district performance. It's a 100-point index, so if a student has a higher level score, say of a 4 or 5, they'll earn 100 CPI points. And it allows the schools and districts to demonstrate student progress toward proficiency. So we're shooting for a higher CPI score, and we'll actually go through that for each school.
So this is the new look, the new format. What we have 2 different reports that they give out. One is for the district and one is for each school. Our school, you'll notice, had like 91 in this class, but only 88 show up. Those are the students that were in our school all year. So that's what they're looking at, and that's the report I brought. You can get the other. It's a tiny bit higher in some and lower in the other, but it's only within a point or 2. The main thing we look at is the part that says CPI toward the end, the average transitional CPI. That's how we get our accountability level. So what we're looking at in this is we look for at least an 80. That's our goal right now. It should be 100, and that's where we're heading eventually but just to move up, we wanted to get toward that 80 to begin with. That's just a little bit over the needs improvement level, but not enough to give us everybody on level. So we look at our average standard score. To get the 100 points, it's a little strange because they give you different scores for different age groups or different grades. Like this year, our third graders had to have 735 to get 100 points. Obviously, they didn't all make the cutoff for level 4. It's a little bit lower on this, and each grade level is a tiny bit different, especially when you get into the 4 and 5, because those levels are different cutoffs for every grade level. So it's just kind of you have to look at the data very carefully to make sense of it. But what our goal is to get the 750 for the average standard score. We don't want a 740, we want a 750. We're not there, but the main thing we talked about last year when we were deciding to take the PARCC test, we didn't know whether or not we wanted to take this or the MCAS, and we thought this would give us an opportunity to see where our weaknesses were. So we have found out we have some weaknesses, and those are the things that we'll be attacking. The next step for us is to go through each student individually and just see which students did a better job at student growth. That's the main thing we look for.
I can't remember if I heard it here or somewhere else. Was it perceived by the children that this was kind of a throwaway year, they didn't have to try? I've heard that.
I'll speak to that, Janet.
All right, so it's from you I might have heard it, or heard about it. Okay, all right, so never mind.
We'll let Josh go, and then we'll say our piece.
Okay. You don't have to speak to it now, later. Okay, I just want to,
Okay,
okay.
okay.
So you're saying you don't think that had an effect? You think these are real scores, in your opinion, right now?
For our little guys,
For
I
your-
think they tried very hard, if that's what you're asking. I think they...
That's what I'm asking.
I know when I first came over to Mr. Mackey, we had some pretty low scores, and we looked at the data, and we found out that there were quite a few students that were not trying. There were zeros. They just absolutely didn't even answer some of the questions. I saw one question on the class, when I did my first pass-through, one question that wasn't answered, other than the ones that ran out of time. We had a few that ran out of time, and you could tell that at the end. But the kids try, and they work hard. Not all of them do as well as they could because they get nervous. We
Sure.
know that. But we have a long way to go still. We want that 100. So this is our third grade group. And if you look at the level 4 and 5, you can see we did not have very many in level 5. That's one of our goals. Okay, let's look at the 4th grade. The 4th grade also has another score. On the far right, you'll see the student growth. This is what we have been really working hard on, is to get the student growth above 50. The state says that it's moderate growth, which is the expectation if it's anywhere from 40 to 60. So this year, we had 30 in 4th grade ELA, 42 in grade 4 math. Those are going to be important things for us to look at as we go forward. 5th grade, 39 and 35. You'll notice we had a 744 in the standard score, which is pretty close to the 750 that we wanted, but those students came in very strong, or stronger than usual, and we didn't take them as far as we could have. So with our new math program, we're hoping that we address that piece, and that the math program is now going to drive the reading scores too, I believe, with all the word problems that they have.
Okay.
That's a hope. The kids are really having to struggle to really make sense of all these, so it's great. At least we think so now. Okay. This is our 4-year CPI. You notice it's kind of a downward trend for the ELA, and I think part of that may be the fact that we've been concentrating on math so much. So our math went up pretty well last year, and then this year it didn't drop as far as we had maybe thought it might because of the new testing. 4th grade, pretty stable. We need to go up a little faster, I think. But if you'll notice, we do have an upward trend even with the new test. So even with the new math test, we did better than we did before. 5th grade, we had a pretty good dip this year with the new testing. And then we have our proficient. This is where you notice the rigor in the tests show up. When you look at the test scores, you can see how close, the goal is to close that gap, to get as close to the state and then go above. We were doing fairly well at staying close, but you can see every one of them, except for the 4th grade ELA, took a dip. Now remember, that 4th grade was our strong class last year too. And then the 5th, let's go to the math. The math is even more significant for the 3rd grade. We were above state last year and dropped well below this year. So that's showing that even though we had the better scores for 4th grade, the CPI was good, but this shows the rigor. You had to get a much higher, we got a lower score, but still did well in comparison to the others. So, is that it?
That was the, yep, that was
And then, oh, you're on the next one. The math part, if you look at the 4th grade, we've been working on math. That's been where we've put a lot of our emphasis over the last 2 years, really. If you see at the beginning where they started, every year they've done something different. We've done different trainings trying to figure out where we were going, and so we've made that move up. If you look at our science, that's an MCAS score. So they stayed right even with the state this year with the MCAS, but the others, the tests are quite a bit different. That's Toy Town.
Thank you.
So I'm a little giddy over our scores because they're phenomenal. And to speak to Janet, that our students really did take this test seriously, and to speak about the rigor of this assessment, it was much more difficult than MCAS. So for our kiddos to perform as they did on this assessment, they should be commended, and also the teachers who have worked very hard to work on their curriculum and their instruction and really align it to our standards. They did a fantastic job. So here's our ELA scores. The blue dot is the state average, so we want to get as close to that as possible. And like Catherine said with the CPI scores, that goal is to get over 80. So you can see in grade 6 ELA, our CPI score was an 83.6, grade 7 was an 81, and our grade 8 was an 87. And then with the student growth percentile, where that's compared with students compared against themselves, so how they did and their growth that they made taking the PARCC assessment. They definitely did go up there. You can see with our level 4 and level 5, we still are maintaining a higher percentage there for students who met or went above expectations. So ELA, we're right on track as to where we need to go and working on that curriculum and strengthening that. Mathematics is a little bit different. Mathematics is still one of those weaker areas that we see that we need to concentrate on. We were not close to the state average where we want to be. Again, that 750 range, we were still in the 730s. So that's an area that we need to concentrate on. Our CPI scores, and then also our student growth. So math is an area across all grade levels that we're still working on. I will say that the students really persevered in their math pieces of their assessment. It's difficult to take a math exam on the computer, putting in their equations, and very difficult, but they did a great job. What we want to show you now is results by cohort. So this is following the same group of students, how they did in grade 5, grade 6, grade 7, grade 8. So it's comparing oranges to oranges instead of groups. So you can see ELA, MCAS, where students performed, and then on PARCC. So you can kind of see a bell curve there. Again, looking at the proficient level 4, we had 54% of our students getting proficient or level 4. Math, again, another area that you can see here that we need to be working on with our students at level 4. So level 3 and level 2, we need to make sure we get those kiddos over the hump to proficient. And again, with level 1, there was only 7% of the students that scored at the warning level. So here you can see this would be our current 8th graders, how they did in grade 5, grade 6, and then grade 7 on Park. Definitely making progress, moving more students up to that proficient range and the advanced. So you can look at MCAS for our advanced percentile, 7 and 5, and then moving on to the Park assessment, we had 15% of our students getting advanced. So again, taking a harder exam and actually more students coming out at the top of advanced.
And we did ask the students how they felt about the test, and they felt that because it was within computer-operated systems, it was within their wheelhouse, they felt comfortable. If you note how kids write today, and I mean literally their penmanship, not their ability to give you context and ideas. We have a lot of kids who, if you can read their writing, God bless you, because their script is just horrible. The kids felt solid about using the equipment, and they did say, however, that on the math, going from the idea of using paper on the side and the machine, they slowed down. So what came of that is, our read on it would be that they feel in the future they'll get better at it because they will know how to time themselves and so forth. We literally will use the needs improvement breakouts to invite kids to the after-school academic academy. We do that. We send letters home and invite parents. You know, it doesn't cost you anything. We offer it this many times a week, and if your kid is on the edge, could you please send them? Because we will remediate and help them with identified skills. And within this, we're just getting the first look at everything. They have broadened the number of categories and skill-based mechanisms that we will have access to. So a child can be doing well, but when it comes to actually putting down a theorem or some other kind of an application in a writing format, that shows up as a weakness, and the parents will know that because sometime in the next week to 10 days, you're going to get a breakdown of this is where your kid is, and then you'll see this list in columns of specific skill-based things, and out of that, we know if we ask a child to come to the after-school academy, we know what skills they have to really hone in on, and so that's the good thing about the test. I actually, before we ever do any kind of testing, I have been giving the same speech for years, and to the point where, as you know, the kids in my school already had me down at Toy Town. One of the students actually stood up when we were doing the rah-rah, let's do the best we can, and she did it verbatim. Yes, Mr. Mackey, we know what you want. Will we commit to doing the best we can? We agree we will do that. And you've always told us it's not a test, it's an assessment. And what does that mean? An assessment means this is where you're at individually on this day at 12 years old, and it's not a test, it's who you are and whether you've shown growth. And then you always close with, do the best you can, please help us, you know, we're in this together, and then you say, and we'll still love you tomorrow, and you walk away. So the kid gave it, but that's always been the speech, and the point truly is that, you know, we believe in our kids, and they will continue to grow, and it's incremental, and we're running a marathon, we're not running a sprint. So it's going to take a little bit longer to overcome it, but that doesn't mean we don't accentuate to where we need to be.
So this last one for the cohort shows current 9th graders. It is very similar to what you saw on the last slide for our current 8th graders. So again, that bell curve where we have most of the students in levels 4 and 3. One area that we're really concentrating also is that we didn't have any student score in the advanced portion of the Park assessment. So that's somewhere we need to push the kids to that level.
But Jess, could you go back to that real
Yep.
quick? One thing I'm noticing is the warning level has gone down considerably.
The warning level or our failing level has significantly decreased.
And the kind of sort of needs improvement, to not met expectations. It's,
We
okay.
just want to keep moving the kiddos
Yeah.
up. Yep.
Thank you.
So these are just a visual of the CPI scores. The blue is going to show Park on these slides. So this is grade 6. So where they were on, well, kind of isn't blue up there. It's the dark gray would be Park. The purplish is how we scored on MCAS. So you can see from MCAS to taking Park, again, a more difficult assessment coming out on top. So ELA and math, grade 7. So the first two are MCAS, making a steady increase for ELA and going up again in Park. Math last year, 2014, went down significantly, but again, we're now on the upward trend for math for 7th grade.
And we had changed the curriculum.
And that's right, thank you. Last year, we had changed the curriculum, and that was one of the reasons that we did see that significant drop. Students were actually missing a piece of the standards in their instruction, so we quickly made that change and are filling in those gaps. Grade 8, you can see ELA and math again on the upward trend. And science, we made an upward trajectory last year. This year, we've gone down a little bit. That was still MCAS. And we're looking at that. We're actually changing that curriculum, making some alterations to it, looking at the next generation science standards, where we loop more of the standards together. Instead of doing 1 year earth science, 1 year life science, 1 year physical science, it's more of a spiral effect where they're getting all of those concepts within 6th grade. Next year we'll roll it out to 7th grade, and then the year after 8th grade. Any questions for middle school? Okay.
What did you say?
So just remember, I was excited.
Oh, yeah, you should be. I thought you said, just remember, I didn't make Josh's slides.
No, I didn't.
Which I wouldn't take credit for them either, except I did. So go back 1 second. So I'm a little bit snarky in this, but it's not directed towards you at all. I'm very passionate about what I believe, and I'm not thrilled with Park. So let me take you back for a second to 1998. Friends is the most popular show on television. People are listening to bands with names like Smash Mouth. There was no such thing as Snapchat, Instagram, or being YouTube famous. And the MCAS test was rolled out. And a young idealistic English teacher named Josh Romano proctored MCAS, and it didn't count. It was just a tryout. And on the second day, my principal directed me to go through the answer booklets and delete the obscene pictures that students were drawing in them. Because, believe it or not, 15-year-olds do not take 3-day standardized tests particularly seriously. And that history repeated itself with Park. So, go ahead. As happened with MCAS, the students failed to take Park seriously. The data is pretty much worthless, to the point that the state has not calculated the transitional CPI for high school students yet. I don't know if they're ever going to, now that they've decided that Park isn't the way that they're going to go. So the thing that we got out of it, though, was our experience in administering the test was very valuable. We know how to administer the Park test now, and there was a significant learning curve with that. Our freshmen took either the Algebra 1 or the Geometry exam, and the English Language Arts exam. That's one of the strengths of Park, is that you take an MCAS test in the course that you took. It's similar to the Regents model in New York, as opposed to MCAS, where like the math MCAS, there's just one test, and it doesn't matter what level of math you've reached, wherever you happen to be in May of your sophomore year, you're taking that same test. So there is something of a strength in that. A student who hasn't taken geometry yet isn't pretty much guaranteed to fail. And the freshmen did put moderate effort into the test. Juniors were another story. Juniors have already done their high-stakes testing, and they know it. They took the Algebra 2, some took the Geometry exam, and the English Language Arts exam. I exempted juniors who were taking advanced placement exams. I couldn't waste 6 days of AP content on a test that doesn't count. So there's sort of it's not necessarily an exact sample of the junior class in there either. Many juniors literally took minutes to finish the exams. They took them longer to log into the test than it took for them to actually take the test. I took that as a tribute to our teachers and how much our kids wanted to be in class with their teachers. So ultimately, to me, I was a little miffed last year because taking the Park test, it took away from time that my freshmen could have been working on courses that they will actually have their high-stakes tests in. We can't make that time back, and I am not held harmless on my MCAS scores. Park scores didn't matter, but my MCAS scores sure as heck did. And so all of my freshmen lost 6 days of biology, the course for which they took a test at the end of the year that they need to graduate. So I was less than thrilled. That said, Brooke Clenchy, the former superintendent in Winchendon, asked me to come and speak to the Board of Education. And as Jess had said, Commissioner Chester is a big advocate of the PARCC exam, and so you don't have to worry about my ever being asked to work for the Board of Education or the Department of Ed as long as he's in charge, because the compliment sandwich idea that if you have to give somebody constructive feedback or negative feedback, you're supposed to sandwich it. You say something positive and then something negative and then something positive. Well, by the time I was done with my my constructive criticism sandwich, it looked like the sandwiches that like Scooby-Doo and Shaggy would make on Scooby-Doo. There was a lot of filling in between those positive pieces of bread. But there were some positive things. The PARCC is actually a pretty good test, and so if MCAS 2.0, which I believe I coined that phrase weeks before Commissioner Chester did, but whatever, it requires the students to use more advanced skills. It does. They have to compare elements from multiple readings. There's higher order thinking skills involved in that. I like that, actually. The actual format of the test on the computer what happens on MCAS is kids don't turn back to a reading. If the question on page 17 refers to a reading on page 15, a lot of times they don't get that they can go back and look at it. Well, with PARCC, it's on the screen. Both readings are right there on the screen. It's there. So they know what they can use to answer the questions. The reading selections are more engaging. They're more relevant than MCAS selections. The technology learning curve for proctors and students was pretty reasonable at the high school level. I know one of the things I think I said to the Board of Ed was that your kids, in a lot of ways, it was almost like they were being assessed on their computer skills. Yeah, I didn't feel so much at the high school level. The kids were pretty tech savvy at that age. The negatives that had Commissioner Chester looking a little unhappy with me, there were technology issues. Okay, it's their first time, but doing software updates mid-test was probably a bad idea. I thought Bill Clinton, the technology director, I thought he was going to have an aneurysm over that. There was a very poor calculator app, for example. The one on my phone is better. It was garbage. My big problem is it ties up technology resources, and we've been revamping our technology curriculum. Mike Fontaine, my technology teacher, is ultimately trying to build up to potentially doing advanced placement computer science A. But if I lose my computer labs, and basically I'm losing them for the middle school and the high school tests, that's a lot of time. What would that be, 12 school days that those labs are tied up? That's a long time. And we can we're fortunate enough that we can sort of make up for that with iPads. Like a history teacher that wants to use the lab, well, they've got the lab in their classroom. But for Mike Fontaine, his technology kids are homeless for 12 school days. That's too much, in my opinion. And like I said, we are more fortunate than other schools. So those are some of the things that I offered to them. I don't think I'll be invited back anytime soon, but it was very cathartic for me. So our actual data, again.
Josh, can I ask a question?
Sure.
The MCAS 2.0, how is the math going to be Algebra 1, Geometry, or Algebra 2?
I believe so, yeah. Was that part, it is still going to be that model, and I think that is a positive model for it to go to. I do like that much better. I don't like if they're testing in multiple grades, but okay, I'll consider, for a better test, okay, I'll bite that bullet. So again, the scores are not great, but I don't even have the transitional CPI to compare individual student performance, and I'm not sure that it would be all that valuable. Maybe with my freshmen. I am using the freshman PARCC data from this year's freshmen who were 8th grade last year because I think they did take the test more seriously. The good news is, well, my kids are at least taking MCAS seriously. But if you look at for example, the Algebra 2 scores, 72% of my juniors got level 1. That's basically they put their name on the test and they turn the thing in. So, or they logged out. And there's really, if they log out, they log out. You can't log them back in. It's not like MCAS where you can say, take this back and go try something. It was, here's your pass to your class, enjoy your day. I did try to get them to buy into it, but it just they know. They're not that naive to think that this test was really going to matter to them. They know that they've already passed their graduation exams. So I'm very glad that the middle school effort was there. And again, I think when you're looking at my MCAS scores, it's a different story. I was a little disappointed, but again, that it is the story that is kind of common across the state too, that high school kids did not take this test seriously. And I saw it, 17 years ago, I saw the same thing. So that's my snarky bit on PARCC.
Thank you.
I'm gonna sandwich this.
She's going to compliment sandwich.
Yeah. So really, some good news for this spring, with the test being shorter, the window being pushed back, having only one window. We're also looking into, with the wireless upgrades at the middle school and using the iPads now that we have, using the iPads in each of the classrooms. We need to purchase some more keyboards to go with them, but that will decrease the time that we need to take even from our computer lab, and then not having to use the high school lab also. So that's, you know, a roadblock that we're overcoming too for our next spring. Just a little bit, but definitely a positive. How's that?
That's good.
Okay.
May I?
Yes?
So I realize right now we're bound by high-stakes testing, right? Let's pretend, I mean, I don't know what the structure is like. Maybe we get funding, the state gets funding possibly to the school districts from the federal government for participating in these things. Let's pretend all of that's out of the equation, right? Are there any benefits to, are there any benefits that come, in your opinion, from teaching to this test or from the data that comes as a result of these tests? And I'm talking all of them, not just high school, but in general.
I think about this stuff a lot, and sure, it's, so if I were Bill Gates, I would tell you that the value is that I can rate teachers based on how well students do on that standardized test. If you believe that value-added evaluation is a good tool, and the last study that I saw said that it was 53% likely that the teacher would be categorized in the wrong evaluation category if you use test scores only. Statistically, there's a 53% variance on that. So I don't think it's valuable in that. And I think the data that we get from it, for the most part, is valuable in determining what we need to do better on the test next year.
On the test.
This is kind of like saying, I have a car so I can get to my job, so I can have the money to get my car because I need it to get to my job. There's a circle logic to it. It's not 100% a bad thing to make sure that there are standards, and that's really where the high stakes testing came from, was the idea that the graduation standards needed to go up. And have they gone up since 1997? Oh, absolutely. So the standards that myself or Len or somebody, when we went to school, was very different from what it is now. Kids graduated back then at levels of readiness that were far lower than where they are now. How much of that is related to testing? It's something to sort of make accountability for that you're teaching those things. But I will say, like, the primary use for the data that I get from MCAS is how to do better on MCAS. So in terms of teaching to a test, if teachers are going to teach to a test, PARC's probably a better test for them to teach to, because it does require some higher order thinking. It does align better to the Common Core standards, which are pretty darn good standards, despite there being so many of them. They're not bad. So if you're going to teach to a test, probably PARC's a better test to teach to than MCAS, because it does require more. It still leaves those gaps that you always had of history and the arts not being valued because they're not covered by those tests. The data that I use, that I prefer to use, is actually our own benchmark data, benchmark assessment data. Students doing a writing assessment, teachers looking at it, comparing the data, and then developing a course of action on how to improve those students' writing. That to me is more valuable data to use. So it's better. It's not the best thing in the world, and it's not, to me, it hasn't been shown to be scientifically valid to use it to evaluate teachers. So, I mean, that's my piece. She's gonna make it better now.
We have looked at our scores for several years now. Since I've been here, it's been 6 years. And what we did find was there were some curriculum gaps, and you can see that pretty easily when you take a state test. We know that our math scores were really, really low across the board. It wasn't one teacher that wasn't performing. It was all of them for their student growth, which tells us that something was wrong with our curriculum. So that's really one of the things that we really look at carefully when we look at the test scores. How well did we do on everything? MCAS used to break it up into little standard pieces, so you could tell exactly where you were not meeting the standards that you needed to meet. So we could target those. And of course, for the last several years, we've been targeting that math score. So now we need to go back and look at our ELA again. But it does give us some place to start looking.
I'm going to agree with Catherine in part of what Josh said. One of the perceptions that I know for me personally that I'm trying to break is that we teach to a test. We do not teach to a test. We teach standards. So looking at our Common Core standards and what our teachers are working with for their curriculum is that we are looking to meet mastery in those standards. So when they take that assessment, they're really assessing whether or not our curriculum and our instruction is aligned to those standards, because those standards are what is going to get our students to be college and career ready. So that, again, is something that perception we're trying to overcome, that we teach to a test. Maybe in the old days for MCAS, that, yeah, we did MCAS boot camp, we did a week before the test, and we got them ready for it. PARCC is a whole different thing. And with PARCC and learning this assessment for us individually too, to bring that to the teachers and the students, is really understanding the test blueprint. That was something that came out right before the PARCC assessment last year that we really didn't get to dig deep into. Now with the board's decision, and we know the direction that we're going towards, we can really start to look at, okay, what are those certain areas, again, with our data that we get from this assessment, and what are those areas that students that we're missing in our curriculum and our instruction.
Can I just add, I know Josh is being very negative, but 2 years ago, 100% of our students passed the ELA, and then last year was 96%. 98, so I mean, ELA scores are there, at least for the MCAS scores, so hooray.
Their scores are good, I mean, and they're getting better, but the same thing, I hate the idea of one all-encompassing test, and that's what we measure our students on. You know, I just think that I don't like that.
Lynn?
Yeah, we don't teach to the test, but what has come out of the tests over a number of years is that when I was with Catherine down in Toy Town and then up into the middle school, we look at the cohort of kids. So we've tracked kids longitudinally, you know, this particular 8th grade. We can tell you what that core group of kids did going back to the 3rd grade. The MCAS didn't do that. They never broke it down and took the like group and followed it, okay? But we purposely did that, and I would tell you specifically because Mr. Niles used to say, well, how do we know this is working? Well, I can tell you where your daughter was in 3rd grade, and I can tell you where she was when she left and went to the Winchendon school, because we have a track on her and so forth. And by the way, his daughter's a nice kid. But the point was that we did do that, and we have done that traditionally, and out of that comes indicators. As an example, my first year in the middle school, we formed a writing committee because when we looked at the data that had come in from MCAS, too many kids were leaving the open responses blank. And when you called them in and asked them, they said, well, we don't know how to write, or Mrs. So-and-so taught us this, and that one taught us that. There was no formulaic look, there was no expectation. And we're still working on that because you'd be surprised what some teachers think is good writing versus what is appropriate writing for the age and so forth. So things come out that are indices, and we have been chasing those indices. One of the things that always happened was we always did a lot of curriculum development, and it ended up in places, but was it being put into practice with fidelity? And I'm not sure across the board whether that's absolutely true. I think there's been sincere effort. So our second meeting of every month is directly related to you get together with your core group. If you're an English teacher in 6, 7, and 8, you go together and work on English. And you know, I do the social studies, and Jess does English, and Mary Alice does science, and then we have Bruce McDonald and other people from the DSAC for all subjects, but he also comes in and works on the math with us. And math longitudinally up and down the spectrum is something we need to work on, but it is something we're aware of. And there has been a commitment on the part of the faculty to work hard and to work with each other. And that's a good thing, because when I first came here, the Memorial School very rarely met with Toy Town, let alone themselves. And that's not quite the same image that was, say, 8 years ago. So there are things that have come out of the testing that's positive. Do we have a long ways to go? Yeah, we do. And will we strive for that? Absolutely. And Josh and I don't have to agree on everything, but the commitment is there to make it work. And, you know, we have UDL and different things where the 2 grade levels are coming together, STEM and all of that. And that's purposeful behavior on the part of the system and on the part of the faculty. So there is a join-in that goes on that is positive.
Sure.
And I don't mean to keep us here forever, but, and I don't know how to phrase the question. How much do you feel our students are missing out on or are lacking when they leave our doors for the final time in terms of what they need to succeed, whether it be college, whether it be some sort of higher education, whether it be the workforce, because of what we haven't been able to get to because of not necessarily teaching to the test, but how much do you feel, and I know that's probably hard to articulate the answer, just like I'm struggling with the question, but how much do you feel that we're missing out on because of these high-stakes testing? Sorry, I know that's hard.
Well, I'm tempted to just, well, I mean, just to start, there's just the days of instruction that are lost to testing, which continues to increase in America. That if you look at it, that we only have a finite amount of time. Every day that we spend testing is a day that's lost, let alone if you're teaching to the test, which I don't believe most of my teachers do that other than quick reviews before the actual test. We are losing that time. I think more what happens is it becomes, if there is, because again, there's only so much money as well. I have 4 math teachers, I have 4 science teachers, I have 4 English teachers, I have 3 history teachers, I have 2 foreign language teachers. So in the areas where there is a high stakes test required for graduation, I have more personnel. So I think that right there is, you know, there's a finite pool of resources and it's been tailored toward trying to be successful on the thing that we're being measured on. It's not an unreasonable thing to do, but, and if there was no MCAS, would I have 4 history teachers? Maybe, maybe not. Would I have 3 foreign language teachers? I really do think that I might. But I don't know who would have, you know, would I have 3 science teachers? Well, maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'd have fewer science teachers. So in terms of that, maybe. I can't say for sure that that's directly caused by the existence of MCAS, but it's there. And we definitely lose time on testing. Not that some testing isn't necessary, but, you know, America has started to test the bejeebies out of their students and over the past 15 years or so. And, you know, nobody's increased the school year. Nobody's increased the school day to account for that. So in terms, I actually think, though, that PARCC will make us more college career ready because that is exactly what the test is geared towards, as opposed to just sort of a baseline of knowledge that MCAS was, that, you know, everybody should be at least a little familiar with algebra, geometry, and be able to write and do some biology. This is geared towards, I mean...
It's more specific.
It's very corporate influenced in the sense that it's designed to have kids more career and college ready with higher order thinking skills as opposed to just like a memorization and regurgitation type of thing that MCAS is more in tune to. So it's more skill-based, I guess. So I guess it's sort of an improvement versus multiple choice and things like that. So in that sense, I think it's okay. The benefit of MCAS is it's done, you know, if students pass, they're done by sophomore year, and then you kind of have junior and senior year where you can do more diverse things with them. You're not focused on math and, you know, just math, science, English. But, you know, a student who fails Algebra 1, for example, we jam them into Algebra 1 and geometry that if there's, you know, the next year because they have to take that test. So, you know, what's being lost by doing that? They're not taking a foreign language or something else that they could be taking. So it's hard to actually say in concrete terms, other than that we definitely lose time at the days that are testing.
Right. And not all kids progress at the same time and the same level. I mean, you can take any average 8th grade, and within that, you're going to have a potpourri mix of who's where and what, emotionally, intellectually, physically, so forth and so on. And if you were to do an across the board, and I'm going to be utterly sexist, by and large, the girls are going to be farther ahead than the boys, because that's just the nature of the process. and that's where they are. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to catch up. And so within in any cohort of kids, you've got multiplicity of talent and where they are. Even if a kid's in an AP course, within that, you've got a construct of someone who's way up here, someone who's in the middle, and someone who's at the lower end, but is still functioning higher than, say, the average kid. So you just have to weigh it and do the best you can to fill in and keep them thoroughly engaged.
One more, and I'm done. Do you, as administrators and teachers, feel like it would be detrimental if, and I'm not saying this group exists, but if a group of people existed that had the time and energy and inclination to lobby or to advocate for a moratorium on the high-stakes testing and, you know, to join that movement, to relook at what we're doing, you know, on a state level, would that be at all detrimental, do you think, to our students?
I don't think it would be detrimental to our students. I mean, you have to understand that Massachusetts has the most strident tests in America, and we are, as an aggregate across the state, in the top 1, 2, 3 in all categories. That's just a statistical fact. So what we strive for is higher than probably 46 of the other 50 states. I mean, seriously. So traditionally, we provide solid education in New England, and Massachusetts particularly. I mean, it's probably our second or third leading industry in the state.
You can't let it go, can you?
I'm trying.
Just show it. Step back. I have 4 sons. They've been through the whole education. They're in their 20s and 30s, beginning 30s now. If my children, my personal children, had had this curriculum that we're trying to teach when they were growing up, I would have been so much happier. So I can't say anything really bad about the standards. I think it's a good move. The test is supposed to reflect the standards. Maybe we don't have the best test at this point in time, but they're working toward it. It's a big deal in the state and in everywhere. Everybody's looking at which test do we use. I think the standards are good. I like what I'm seeing in the math program, which is based on our standards, and I would have loved for my kids to have had it.
I'm hoping it stays so my children personally can go through it. The one thing that I did not like about Park last year was the time. It took up a huge amount of our instructional time. You know, it really tested the stamina of the students to get through the units that they call the testing sessions. I really am looking forward to the changes that they're making on Park. For me personally, the standards for what we do at the school, we're still going to educate the students towards those standards and being ready when they leave the middle school, ready for high school, ready for what happens when they leave Murdoch High School. So that isn't going to change. So if there is a group that's looking at you know, getting rid of the test, it's not going to change our position as to our jobs to educate students for the future.
And we couldn't have been successful without Bill Clinton and Mr. Rhodes. It just technologically was necessary for them to be in the mix, and they worked just so hard to keep us in the loop. I mean, there were sections and times when the machines broke down, and if they weren't in the building, I don't know what our staff or the rest of us would have done, because not everybody is a techie, quite frankly. And they were very good about intervening and being ready, and the pre-prep for the test involved a great deal of time.
Well, thank you very much.
Can I just say, at Thursday's admin meeting, I mentioned that we were going to present the Park numbers today, and Sunday, my administrators worked all weekend. Sunday, Jess threw a PowerPoint to me via email, and then Catherine and Josh added in. So thank you for that quick work and a great job with that presentation.
Thank you very much. You did a nice job.
Would be a better place if everybody just said.
Next, still at you.
We are all set.
Okay, move the microphone over to Mark.
Financial report, how exciting. So what I put in front of you, because and you guys can tell me how you want to do this, but I know that I post these same results to the website that you can review, and I do that within the first couple of days of the new month. And this month, I posted it, and then I posted a revision. So I realized that you may not have done that, so I'd provide you copies of it. So these are the results by DESI function code as of the end of October. And as you can see on our $12.7 million budget, there's $7.4 million expended, 41% of the budget. But bear in mind, there's a couple things happening here. Number one, we still have all the tuitions that are parked in the local budget because we have to expense those out into the grants as they're actually expended grants and circuit breaker.
May I ask?
Sure.
You've given us now that we've got approved grants. So I'm assuming we will see this money down here at the bottom go out to the approved grants very soon.
Yes, you are correct.
Now, I say soon. When is soon?
My goal is to, what we've been doing, been a busy month over the last several weeks, is we've taken the non-salary items, we've done the appropriation transfers, which means moving budget lines to fund things where priorities have changed. We've done reclasses of expenses for things that need to be resorted to the appropriate lines. And on the salary side, we've done the appropriation transfers, meaning a budget shift to accommodate for changes that have occurred in where people are paid or should be paid out of. And the last piece of that is doing a reclassification of expenses for salaries. And so I'm working on that currently. My goal is to have it done tomorrow and submitted to the town. Because bear in mind, these grants, of these, half of these were not even approved except midway through October. So there's no place to put somebody if there's not an account.
Sure.
So we're
Sure.
kind of in closing out that process.
May I ask this? We have about, it's over $1 million down at the bottom, where we have sped private tuition and then tuition to collaboratives. And I can't do the math right now in my head, but it's over $1 million. And we have over $1 million here on this. Is that this money?
It's some of it. So tuition, some of that is going to be paid out of the 240 grant, the Sped Spirit grant. Some of it's going to be charged to Circuit Breaker.
So we still don't have the 240?
No, we do have the 240 now.
Okay, so that should clean up, I'm sorry.
If it's here, we have the money.
Yeah, okay. So it should clean up all that negative there.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, it should clean up all the negative down below here.
It won't clean it all up. It will clean up the items that we put into the 240 because we can put in and encumber the entire amount and we won't be expending all of it. Circuit Breaker, DOR says we can only charge as we get it. So as we get payments, I can move the money from the local budget to the to Circuit Breaker.
Okay.
So
We don't, how much is that? Out of all this $1 million, basically, I'm using a rough figure, but out of the $1 million, how much is the circuit?
Circuit Breaker is about $300,000.
So we will still see a running of minus $300,000 in here, ish.
You will see it expended as it comes in. That's $300,000 over the year, yes.
So it will be 300,000-ish.
Right.
Minus the expenditures as the money comes in from the circuit breaker.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
But then so we'll come down to 300,000-ish and then less. Okay, all right, thanks.
Sure.
All right, no, pardon me, keep going.
So that's part of the process that we've been working on, and I attached, for your viewing pleasure, the the actual transfers that we did to accomplish this. And like I said, there's one more kind of batch that's going to be coming that will be the actual salary expenditure transfers, so you'll see those as well. And I mean, this is a big chunk. Of course, there's still going to be adjustments through the course of the year, but this is one big reclassification that's occurring because we're now at the point where we have most of the grants in, we have a place to put them, so we're doing those adjustments.
Once again, you have another about 200,000 here, or not quite, that's still negatives. If you look at subs for teachers, it's 2355. We're at minus 116,000.
Yep. So that includes the temporary grant salaries that need to be reclassed out as well.
We have a temporary grant somewhere else. We have a temporary grant somewhere else.
Well, in this, the way this is structured, it falls under 2355. That's where it falls in the DESI function code. If you looked at the actual organ object, it's in the 9800s, and it still is, but in the way we look at it with DESI, under DESI function codes, it's under subs, under 2355.
All right, then, before I come back to that, there's a minus 69,000 under classroom instruction technology.
Yep.
That's 2451. Did I read that wrong? Wait a minute. I may have, I don't have a ruler here, so, yeah, no, 2451. Where's that minus 69,000 coming from?
Yep, well, it'll end up being addressed by the reclassifications. And let me see if I have it broken down.
And then there's a minus 14,000 for the school adjustment counselor. That little bugger keeps coming up.
I was going to say, haven't you asked about that?
I've asked that every month. I keep asking that one.
And that's another one that's been submitted to reclassify.
Okay.
So that you'll see go away as well.
I'm getting concerned. You know, I'm really concerned that I asked these, and now we're into November, the end of November. And, you know, I've asked it every month about these negatives. And one of these days, we're going to come to the end of June, and I'm going to say, what about this negative?
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to have to say, gee, I guess we'll have to ask the town for the money. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to ask the town. Actually, it'd be in May. We're not going to ask the town.
Yep.
Because we can't ask the town.
Right.
And I can't keep saying to you, and to you, and to you, well, but I've asked you every month. That's not an acceptable answer. I've asked you every month. You know, I can't keep hearing, I'm going to fix it. It's not acceptable anymore. I'm not trying to get on, I am trying to get on you. Who am I lying? I am trying to get on you. I can't keep asking these questions and keep getting these answers, I'm going to fix it. I've been asking them since August.
Well, the thing is, I don't really want to do it piecemeal for the simple reason that it gets very hard to track if you start doing a few here and a few there, and then you have to wait to see, has it been done, has it not been done? It's very hard to track results. So I'd rather do it in one batch and send, which now we have.
Okay, so when is the batch going to be done? It's your side of the batch. Has every side of your side of the batch, are you trying to say to me that Donna Allard hasn't done the rest of the batch? Is that what you're saying to me? You've sent everything over?
As I said, I've sent 3 pieces of it, and I'm working on the 4th piece.
And the 4th piece should be the end?
It should be the end for now, yep. There'll always be some reclasses.
So
Yep.
I should see no minuses in here. I should see that the school superintendent is getting paid. He's actually getting paid out of the correct account. No minuses anywhere.
I won't say you won't see no minuses anywhere, because there are things that'll happen that we may have to do future adjustments, but it's going to clear up the majority of
Future
these.
adjustments because you've made a mistake? I don't want to, we've had too many mistakes. That's what I don't want to see anymore. I don't want to see, I guess I don't want to see that we've had mistakes. I guess I don't understand, once we notice the mistake, this is what I don't understand, Mark. We noticed the mistake about the principal. Why was that not corrected immediately? That mistake. Why have we carried that mistake? Then we only had one little small thing to fix. Now we've got a big thing to fix. I don't understand why that mistake didn't get fixed immediately when we noticed it. So can you explain why we didn't fix that mistake?
Well, I mean, at the time when we were, as we're setting up the budget and we're getting things in, yes, we recognize that there's a lot of priorities to do, and we know we have to do transfers. So we address them in one batch of transfers, trying to take care of everything and look at everything in total.
So instead of saying, okay, we're going to stop this mistake, and we're going to correct it from now on, for the last 3 months, it's now correct, and when we do the transfer, then we only have to transfer $5 instead of $500, instead of carrying it wrong for 4 months. So instead, we choose to carry it wrong for 4 months. Okay. Do you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
Okay. All right. I guess I want these things to stop. I'm trying to say they've got to stop, not I want them. They have got to stop. Can I say it any more clearly? Does everybody hear me? Okay? They have got to stop.
Yep, no, I understand.
I mean, I hear it meeting after meeting after meeting here. I hear it at the Finance Committee. I hear it meeting after meeting after meeting. And you say, yes, I hear it, but it doesn't stop. And I throw my hands up. Okay, now what? There's going to come a time with now what?
Yep. Well, like I can tell you,
Yeah, but we're getting there. I hear you, Superintendent Haddad. We're getting there. And I keep saying we're getting there. But when are we getting there? Okay? All right, thank you.
Well, I'm just saying we've submitted 3/4 of the pieces, and some of the salaries that we have to adjust, they have to go to grants, and the grants have to be there to do. I mean, in total, there's $500,000 worth of salaries that are being funded out of grants, and until you have them.
And I'm happy to sit down. I'm happy to put everybody in one room, and we get it all done at once. I'm happy to have us all do that, and I think everybody would be happy to have it done, instead of back and forth and back and forth. Because if you're getting it done, then we need to get the other piece in, and we've got to get it all done. If we get together and get it all done, then we don't have this, he said, she said again. So I'm happy to work with you to do that, because I want it done too.
Yep.
Thank you.
I do as well.
Thank you.
Okay. So in addition to working on these transfers, we've also been taking a look at the payroll process. We've been trying to basically kind of tweak the workflow so that we're able to check it, make sure that we're as accurate as possible. We have a workflow that we've been revising with that to kind of monitor that, because we want to make sure that goes smoothly. I am trying to work with Harper's to create some new reports that will make our task of reviewing easier, but that's one of the things that we've been working on in the last month or so since we've met. We also filed the end of the year report for FY15 to DESE, so that was another one of the priorities that we did. And the other thing that I wanted to mention to you is go over the food service results that have come in for the past month.
I apologize. One more thing. Did you get a copy? Do we get a copy? Do you get a copy of that end-of-year report that goes to DESE? Is that something that Mr. Haddad gets?
Yep.
Okay.
And Don has a copy too.
I'm sorry, pardon me?
And Don has a copy too.
May we get a copy of that?
It was emailed.
Okay. I might have this
No,
pile
I
is
sent it to
huge.
you and
I'm
Don.
sure.
I might have it, yes.
Thank you.
I can
Then
resend it.
May I get a copy then too, please? Thank you. All right, sorry. Chartwell.
Okay. Then the other thing I just wanted to go over was the food service results. So if you look at the Chartwell's financials, if we compare October FY16 to FY15, you can see that their profit has increased. There's a profit in this month of $7,700. And overall, compared for year-to-date comparison, it's $6,400 as compared to this time last year, there was a $9,000 deficit. So the food service program is running very well right now. You'd asked some questions in the last meetings about the expenses, some of the product costs being higher and the personnel costs being lower. And what that is so the product costs are driven by the fact that last year, when they were starting up, there was a lot of residual inventory that they used, so they didn't do as much ordering at the beginning of last year. Whereas this year, they are running inventory very tight, so there's more product to be ordered. So as they go through each month, they're ordering more than they were at this point last year because there's less residual than there was last year. And the personnel costs year to date was the fact that there was a lot more startup costs for Chartwells, getting people on board, training. The Chartwells manager was here quite a bit in terms of trying to get everything set up. So the personnel costs are not actually driven by any difference in staff. It was just time spent by Chartwells employees for startup last year versus this year. And for now, I think that's pretty much my report.
Anybody have any questions?
You mean any more? No, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, special town meeting warrants. We already discussed them, pretty much. So the Marvin Building, you still have interested parties, so
So-
it might be waived off.
Okay, so I was gonna say, meaning what? Meaning,
We might withdraw.
and we'll find out by Monday?
Wouldn't that be exciting? It would
I
be.
would love that, but Mondays,
I met with John Kearney last night, and, they looked at it before. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I met with John Kearney last night, the headmaster of Winchendon School, and they looked at the building before, and I think at that time they declined, but it's back on the table because we're giving it up, so he'd like to go look at it, and, I think the last time, he was probably in it 4 or 5 years ago. It looks pretty good now. There's nothing in there, but we've taken good care of it and brought it back up, so
so
we'll
the
see what happens.
Winchendon School would kind of rent it from Winchendon Public Schools? Is that-
Well, yeah, we'd have to figure out, so that it's not costing us anything. But, yeah, so all that's got to be negotiated and worked out.
Okay. So it doesn't matter that it's
we-
not
we
public
could-
school students
We
in
could
it?
pass it back to the town and let the town worry about that. We aren't in the real estate business, so that might be a better option. I've got to talk to Bernie, and we'll do that. After John takes a look at it, we'll see what he says, and go from there. And by Monday at the town meeting, we'll know what we're going to do. Okay?
Then Article 14 is, we're just going to, we need to change the name to Extended Day Program, so it includes before school and after school?
Yes, yeah.
So we brought that up when it was presented in front of the Board of Selectmen last week. And at that point, they hadn't brought it to town council. So town council reviewed the language change, which basically says extended day instead of after-school program. So they're going to bring it to town meeting floor that way on Monday. It just happened after this was already, produced as a warrant article. So because of that discussion occurred at Board of Selectmen. So it's going to go to town meeting floor with extended day as the reading of the article.
Can you explain it to me? I just explain what this is.
Yep, sure.
I wasn't at the Board of Selectmen meeting.
So the part of the process with the extended day or after-school program is there are program fees, and we need a place to park those fees.
So there are program fees.
Correct.
That's all I needed to hear.
Yep.
Thank you.
And so actually, it would be good if the school committee could vote to approve and send these to town meeting, because technically that hasn't happened yet, because at the time it came out, school committee hadn't met, and there was only 3 days between the request for articles and the window for closing articles. So we put the articles out with the assumption that school committee would want to put these forward. If not, they'll be passed over. But as a formality, if you could vote to approve and
numbers are
submit
we?
them.
13 and 14.
Is that it?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. I make a motion to put forth whatever the wording is for Articles 13 and 14. Whatever wording we need
Second?
on the wording.
Okay, we have a vote.
As amended, 14 as amended.
Okay, we have a vote to go forward with Article 13 and Article 14 as amended for the town warrant. All those in favor?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Okay. And we also wanted to make the announcement that the high school clubs have offered daycare during the meeting. They just asked that you call into the high school office to let them know how many kids and the ages. And the high school office telephone number is 978-297-1256. And they'll be staying right there, probably in the cafeteria, just during the meeting.
Good for them.
Oh, this was a subject I brought up, the student activity audit.
Yes, so that has to occur this year. And as you know, Tony Roselli from Roselli and Clark had brought that up when he gave the update at the end of the year last year to the tri-boards. So I reached out to him and got a proposal for him to do the audit for the schools. He said middle school and high school. I said, yes, forgot we have the elementary school, so I'll go back to him, but it would be around $5,000 for the middle and high school student activities audit.
Do we have that money stashed in some pillow somewhere?
Well, luckily we're early enough in the year that adjustments can be made to make sure that we fund the audit.
Do we have a line item for auditing?
We don't. Because usually the audit is charged back, any audit that happens, excuse me, is charged back as an indirect cost to us from the town. But this being a student activities audit that's being mandated by the state, it's separate from that.
Do you have any idea how our accounts look? Do we know who has checking accounts and what their approved balances are? I myself, I don't remember ever voting on this stuff.
It's actually in the custody of the town, so yeah, we can look in Munis to see what their balances are, but the money that comes in, it passes through and goes into the accounts that the town maintains. So the individual student activities person who's the custodian has the ability to write the checks, but the money itself is retained in their custody at the town.
Yeah, exactly. They hold it in like an agent account.
Right.
But then the miscellaneous clubs and like athletics teams, they have separate accounts.
Right. There's a checking account, excuse me, and you can transfer balances based on how much the cap is that you can have in that account at any one time. So the majority of the money sits in the agent account, and then there's money that gets transferred as it's needed for purposes out of those individual checking accounts.
And those transfers happen in town hall, or those happen in the business office?
It's submitted, the person needing the money in the student who's in charge of student activities would submit it to the business office, and we send that to the town, who then cuts the check that gets issued back to the student activities custodial person.
And that's all through the warrant process, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So like when they go to pay for their trip to the camp, they need to give it weeks in advance time for the money to be transferred, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
I'm on the right boat.
Exactly.
But how do you approve it through the warrant if you don't know how much money is in it?
They are requesting only a small amount of their total balance. They know the total balance. I can look up the total balance, but they're only requesting a small amount.
So doesn't Steve have to approve it? Don't you have to sign it?
Yeah, actually, the building principals sign, they're going to buy trophies. So the building principal would sign it, and the athletic director, and then we would get it. And, the process.
But somebody has to say,
Somebody
yes,
has to
there's
know that
money
there's
in
money
there.
in their account, yes.
So somebody has to know that there's money in there.
In fact, I think we'll put that on the next school committee meeting to have the custodians of the accounts come in, because there was a request, at least on the middle school side, to bump up their balance They,
The amount they're able to carry in their checking account. Because part of the issue that they ran into last year was they have enough money in their account, but they can only carry so much, and that's basically voted by school committee, the limit that they can carry in their checking account to be able to issue checks. And they had too many expenses coming in with bills which in aggregate were larger than what they were able to transfer at any one given warrant.
Okay.
And from what I understand, all the student activity money is student money.
Yes, so, I know, yeah,
So
so
hopefully that those custodians are keeping close tabs on it.
we need to know the process.
and I believe that's one of the reasons it was requested. Actually, it was requested by the union to do the audit, and we had talked, it has to be done this year anyhow. And we've decided sooner better than later.
Okay, good.
And MASBO also advised to do it before the school year lets out, because you want to be able to contact those custodians to ask questions.
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
As long as it's on the hot sheet. Okay. All right, subcommittees, we already talked about policy. I know Wellness has a meeting on December 16th.
Okay.
Was
And
there
we'll-
anything else going on?
No, other than we're gonna identify candidates for the addiction task force at that meeting. December 16th is the meeting? Okay.
And of course, we're discussing, so. All right, new business. School nutrition equipment.
Okay, there's a letter in your packet from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Kate from Chartwells wrote a grant for school nutrition equipment assistance for high-needs districts. This grant is funded by the United States Department of Agriculture and administered by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. We were actually hoping to buy 2 convection ovens. They've given us money to buy 1.
Congratulations, at least on that one.
Thank you. That's, yeah, that's big, and we're gonna apply for it again next year as it rolls around. But that'll be a big help in our cafeteria. There are some costs to that. We're gonna have to hire someone to come in and do the, the hookups and stuff, but I think Jim said it's below $1,500, so we can still handle that.
There's
And
nothing we have to vote on to approve to go. I hope.
no.
And the Hayward Hospital gift.
So basically what this is, it's a $200 donation from Hayward Hospital with the purpose of putting together some pamphlets and documentation for the seniors on the topic of suicide prevention. And so the way that we can receive this money and be able to put together these documents for the kids is for the school committee to vote to accept it as a gift so we can deposit it in the gift account and make the money available for its purpose.
I'll make a motion to accept this gift.
I would second that.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Please accept and distribute.
We shall.
Any citizens' questions and comments out there? No? It starts to echo now. And we have no minutes to approve this meeting. We're going to have a huge batch next meeting.
Don, before we adjourn, can I just add 2 points
Sure.
that I wanted to bring up? We applied for a Title IIA grant, which is funding for professional development. We submitted it. It's for about almost $76,000. They came back and said one of the requirements is that we have to offer any schools in our town the opportunity to also get professional development from this grant. So I met with John Kearney last night. offered him the professional development opportunity, and he declined and said we should use it for our own. So he's a good guy. So,
You know, that's funny, I would have never even thought of them. I'm laughing and saying our schools were all the schools. It never even occurred to me to offer to him. Good for you.
yeah, well, we are working together with at the backpack program, where on the weekends, we've identified 40 students, and starting January 4th, we're going to provide backpacks with goodies in it for kids to take home every weekend. The Kiwanis is kind of heading that up, and we've partnered with Winchendon School and Winchendon Public Schools. So it's a really neat program. We've had some very nice donations from people, and we're going out to area businesses and some of the people in town to see if we can get some more money for that. But Mr. Kearney also said he was at the meeting last night, very happy to see the progress we've made, and wants to continue this relationship and work more collaboratively. I can't even talk, collaboratively on projects like this. So we've got a good relationship going there.
That's wonderful.
And then the last thing I want to add is that on December 3rd, we've invited Monty Tech.
Yes,
I
I've not
spoke.
gotten confirmation yet.
Okay. Well, I spoke to Sheila Harity, the superintendent, and it also invited her. But I wanted to check with you to make sure that was okay.
That would be great. I think that
Do we have questions that I could possibly send her as well? So,
I'll forward the same sheet that I sent to Bert.
okay,
I probably need his telephone number again.
Okay, yeah, I've got it at home.
okay.
you want me to send
So,
it to
yeah,
you?
she wasn't sure what her schedule looked like, but she was going to, I told her I'd send her an email. I first wanted to get the okay from you to make sure that was good.
What I sent to him, I'll forward.
Could we get that too?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
I pretty much used your list and I added hers. Yours was all nice and typed.
Yes, it was.
All right, I don't have anything else. Do you have any comments?
I have no comments. We are going to go into executive?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Any comments?
I don't think so.
Okay, we have to go into executive session for number 3 to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the public body. And I, the chair, declares that the collective bargaining strategy would be detrimental in open public meeting. So,
And we will adjourn from, are we going to adjourn from the executive session?
well, we don't have to come back, so.
Do we have to come back just to
But we have to
adjourn?
say we're going to adjourn
You
from
have to come back
executive.
to adjourn the meeting.
No, we don't. We can
We can say we're going
adjourn,
to adjourn.
just as long as you say we're going to adjourn from executive session.
Okay, we're going to adjourn from executive session.
Could we do a 3-minute recess prior to starting executive session?
Yes,
Is that okay?
yes. How about a motion to adjourn the open meeting?
I so moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.